I'm ready for this fight. And what I do when I go into these districts where these congressmen, Republican congressmen, vote against this health care, I say, look, the choice is clear. I want Republican so-and-so, Congressman so-and-so, explain to the people in his district who lost their job through no fault of their own, because of the financial chicanery of Wall Street, because of this Ponzi scheme they had masquerading as a policy.
I had essentially two big political questions for the vice president today. What strategy can Democrats use in the elections when the economy is so bad? And how can Democrats compete with the enthusiasm of voters on the very, very far right? Turns out, same answer to both questions. Democrats want every American to know what Republicans want to do on the economy. That's what the administration is counting on. They are counting on an understanding of what Republicans want to do about the economy, driving lots of Democrats to the polls in fear.
Right now, we could decide that every American household would receive a tax cut on the first $250,000 of their income. But once again, leaders across the aisle are saying no. They want to hold these middle-class tax cuts hostage until they get an additional tax cut for the wealthiest 2% of Americans. We simply can't afford that.
In other words, you're worried about the deficit, or better yet, you're mad about the deficit, you're mad about the economy. Wait till you see what these guys on the Republican side of the aisle want to do to the economy. We heard that argument today from the vice president in my interview with him. We heard it from the president in the Rose Garden. And to add an exclamation point to the whole thing, the one American who got famous during the financial crisis because Americans liked what she had to say about it, how to fix it, and how to make sure Wall Street never did it again, Elizabeth Warren is going to take a job in the administration. Jake Tapper at ABC reporting that the job of setting up the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is going to Elizabeth Warren in a new position that will have her reporting both to the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, and to the president directly. Today here in Washington, a source familiar with the decision confirming those details to us and confirming that the announcement of Elizabeth Warren's appointment is due within a week. Joining us now from somewhere apparently down the street from here is the Washington editor of The Nation magazine and MSNBC contributor, Chris Hayes. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Rachel. I has a sad that we are in different parts of the same city.
I can actually see you from here. I just didn't want to be in the same room. It's awkward. Kidding. All right. The Elizabeth Warren appointment was reported back and forth last week. The White House denied it was happening for a while, but now we learn that she is getting the gig, at least some gig, on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Why is this a politically important move?
Well, it's politically important because, A, it's always nice to see someone rewarded for being right for a change, and Elizabeth Warren is one of those people. The last kind of prophetic voice who the administration appointed, who was Don Johnson, who was appointed to head the OLC in Department of Justice, and who was incredibly prophetic about the perils of the torture regime being constructed, you know, she was left to languish. So I think that it's nice to see Elizabeth Warren, who is right about the financial crisis, who is right about its causes, who's been a prophetic voice about what to do about it, and whose policy is now law, and has been a champion for the vision of a political economy that's more just and less financialized. To see her actually as part of this administration is incredibly gratifying and promising about what this agency is actually going to look like.
Elizabeth Warren is somebody who has a lot of supporters among the already activated, especially internet-based Democratic base. Vice President Biden spoke as directly as a politician can today about firing up the progressive base. And people who are connected know Elizabeth Warren and like her, but she's not a household name. In order to connect with people who aren't already connected to politics right now on the progressive side, does the White House have to adopt some of the populist ways that Elizabeth Warren talks about financial issues in order to make this a political plus for them?
Well, yes, I would like it if they did. And it was interesting recently. There was polling out. I forget which poll it was because there's been such a raft recently. But it showed that the financial regulatory reform bill that they passed is the most popular thing that this administration, this Democratic Congress has done. And that was clear in the run-up. The polling was behind it. It was the reason that we were able to get some fairly strong language on things like derivatives, reason we were able to get the Consumer Finance Protection Agency. all of that was because there is a lot of public support for the notion of cracking down on Wall Street. And I think it would be incredibly smart in the run-up to the election to make Elizabeth Warren a household name, to talk a lot about what she's going to be doing, to talk about the financial regulatory bill, and talk about the people who reformed it, which was down the line just about every Republican.
Could that explain some of the back and forth about what exact job Elizabeth Warren's going to have? If she was going into a Senate confirmable position right now, she'd essentially have to go into the cone of silence that all Senate nominees have to go into. By going into the sort of advisory position of setting up the agency, she's allowed to be a public figure right from now, isn't she?
That's exactly right. I think that's totally what it's about. I mean, I think, first of all, it's a practical consideration that this isn't some agency that exists and can run on autopilot, right? You can't just put an acting interim director while we wait for Elizabeth Warren to be confirmed, and the Republicans would fight tooth and nail. They drag out. In fact, I'm sure there's an informal caucus policy that anyone who's been a guest multiple times on the Maddow show cannot be voted for in cloture. So I think that, it would be a tooth and nail fight to get her confirmed. Even if you got her confirmed, it would take a while. That's what they do. They run out the clock. And you can't just let this new agency languish. So I actually think, I understand from a practical perspective, you need someone to start standing up this agency. It's really important. The reforms have got into effect. Banks are coming up with all sorts of crazy new ways to game the system. You want someone there. But yes, second of all, she really can be a public voice now. She can be a public face. And I've talked to nominees, throughout the last 2 years who are so frustrated because they sit there and they have Republicans say completely erroneous things about their record, and they are in what you call the cone of silence. They can't respond back. It's all very managed, and it drives them absolutely bonkers. And I wonder if they could even manage to keep Elizabeth Warren in that cone of silence if they wanted to, given how outspoken she is.
Well, she's both outspoken and incredibly adept at using that bully pulpit on economic issues, which the administration really needs right now politically. Chris Hayes, Washington editor of The Nation magazine and an MSNBC contributor, and some guy down the hall who I wouldn't let in the room. Thanks, Chris.
Well, thanks. Next time, maybe for in person, it would be wonderful.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
If I get lucky. See you, Rachel.
All right, coming up on Countdown, for years, Karl Rove cared for and fed the far-right edges of the Republican Party. Now they are waging war on him. Coming up on this show, guess who thinks the ban on gay people serving in the military is about to go the way of the dodo, lawn darts, and the whole idea of installing the gas tank right next to the back bumper. Vice President Joe Biden told me today that Don't Ask, Don't Tell will be ending. He got pretty specific about how that will happen. That's coming up.